Hi, my name is Mary Wyvie, and welcome to my channel, Living with Tourettes. Why did I start a channel about living with Tourettes, and what is this about? Well, I have 4 children with Tourette syndrome. They are adults now, but they still live with me for various reasons, and I wanted to put out there in the public what it's like living with 4 children with Tourette's. Another reason is that when I've told people that I have raised 4 children with Tourette syndrome, they were like astounded that I was still here. I still had all my faculties about me, and that I was able to laugh and enjoy life. Why I'm doing this is because I want to be able to share with you, those of you who have Tourette's, and the general public, people that don't have Tourette's. I want to inform the world that Tourette's does not mean a life sentence of isolation and ostracization from society. I want people with Tourette's to know that no matter what age you are, you're not alone. There are people out there who are dealing with it, living with it, being successful in spite of it. And I want you to understand that you can reach out to me through my channel, and you can send comments, you can ask questions, you can rant and rave about how angry it's made you. Ask me any questions that you want. If I don't know the answers, then I will definitely research and try to find the answer for you. And one of the things that I will do on my channel is have a time of answering some questions that people have sent me. Now, my children's names are Matthew, he's 33, Benjamin, he's 31, Caitlin, she's 27, and Caleb, he's 24. Now, they were all diagnosed before the age of 7, and 7 is the year that most diagnoses for Tourette's is given. But my family is what a doctor called a high-risk family. And so the boys were diagnosed before the age of 3. Caitlin was diagnosed at the age of 7. And only in severe cases do girls have Tourette's. Usually it was 99.9% male predominant when I first learned about it. Tourette syndrome, if you don't know, is a neurological disorder that causes involuntary muscular movements known as tics. And these tics can be simple and complex. Simple tics are tics that are just one tic at a time, like eye blinking or throat clearing. Other tics that are complex are tics that are more than one at the same time, such as shoulder shrugging and eye blinking, or arm jerking, head shaking. If you're doing more than one tic at a time, that's a complex tic. There are also vocal tics, and unfortunately, Tourette's has gotten a bad name over the years in the sense that people define or label Tourette's as the swearing tic, and that's not what it is. Swearing, coprolalia, which is the swearing tic, is part of it, but that's not all there is to Tourette's. It's a very complex disorder. The DSM-4 defines it as a disorder, but I disagree with that definition for the sense that it's something that most people have most of their lives, and I call it a disease because it affects their lives in such dramatic ways that you can't imagine unless you see people go through it or you've been going through it yourself. Families of people who have Tourette's often split apart because of the stress and because of the constant care and the constant differing tics that happen. It wreaks a lot of havoc in people's lives. My youngest son, we were having an argument one day, and Caleb, and he said, "Mom, you don't know what it's like living with Tourette's." And he was right. I don't know what it's like living with Tourette's. I don't know what it's like to have the tics manifest themselves in your body to the point where if you don't tic, that's all you can focus on. It's what that feeling is. So I don't know what it's like to live with Tourette's, but I did tell him that I know what it's like to live with people who have Tourette's. And in saying that, I want you to know that I don't have all the answers. I can't make your life magically better, but I want you to know that I'm here to listen to you. And I'm going to share with you many different things on this channel. I'm going to share with you about medications. I'm going to share with you about my children's lives, what they've been through, the tics that they've experienced, how it's, it interrupted their lives, and many different things. There are comorbid disorders that come with Tourette's. One of those is obsessive compulsive disorder, and another one is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Another one is anxiety disorder, sleep deprivation, impulsivity, depression. There's a lot of different things that attach itself to Tourette's, and I can understand why, because if I had to move a certain way for more than 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think that I would be a very happy camper. But that's how long tics usually last when they first start out. It's called waxing and waning, just like the cycle of the moon. What happens is they start out with showing irritability, sleep deprivation, loss of appetite, and then a tic would start to present itself. It could be like a hand ticking or an eye blinking tic. It doesn't matter what the tic, where it was, it would manifest itself as a certain part of their body. And then within a week, it would build up to the point where it was constant all the time. And then it would last like that for another week, and then around the 3rd week or 4th week, it would start to dissipate and start to slow down to the point where it waned, which is meaning it had run its course. Now this is what I observed in my children while they were younger, while they were growing up, is that all of these things would happen before they started a tic, and then the tic would start and become more and more constant each day. As a mother, I have to tell you, it tore my heart out to see somebody so young having to deal with something so ferocious as Tourette's. And I can understand people feeling like they don't belong anywhere who have Tourette's. I can understand that you feel like nobody understands you and that nobody loves you or will like you. But I want you to know that this channel you can reach out to, because I understand. I may not know what it is to have it, but I know what it is to live with it. I want to encourage you who have Tourette syndrome, to reach out to me. I want to encourage you to understand and to reach out and find somebody that will listen to you. Not just say, oh, I understand, but really listen to you, even if they don't have the answers. I want you to find somebody that you could talk to, because that's so important. Isolation is the worst thing in the world for you with Tourette's. You really, really need to find a friend, and if I can be that friend, I'm more than happy to listen. Like I said, my children were a high-risk family because their diagnoses came before the age of 7. Now, when I married my first husband, he didn't know he had Tourette's. He lived with it all of his life, and he was never diagnosed. So he did the best that he could as far as dealing with the symptoms. When we had our first child, which was Matthew, and Matthew started exhibiting signs of Tourette's at the age of 2.5, and then it was diagnosed, my now ex-husband didn't really understand, and he couldn't grasp that he had passed on to his son this terrible, that what he thought was a terrible thing that he would have to endure for the rest of his life, and it just tore him apart inside. As each child was born, it became more evident that each child that we had was going to be diagnosed with this because of the severity of it in him. And yeah, I know you're probably saying, why did you have more children if you knew that your oldest son had Tourette's? Well, I really didn't know a lot about Tourette's, and by the time he was diagnosed, I'd already had my second child, and I was pregnant with my third child. And so, it was just a whole big learning period for us, and the more we learned, the more we understood, the more we felt really guilty and bad that we had brought children into the world that have to deal with this. But we'll talk about that more on another video. But anyway, he decided that he couldn't stay anymore. It was just too much for him, and he left us, and we got divorced, and so I pretty much raised the kids by myself for 2 years. But even before that, before he left, he was not a very involved person. He learned to deal with his Tourette's by being isolated and alone. So we really didn't have a cohesive family unit, and it was mostly just me and the children a lot, doing things, going places, shopping, whatever. It was just me and the children. Not that he didn't love them or that he didn't want to be a part of their lives. I just don't think he knew how, because Tourette's and what it did to him is it isolated him from other people and social activities. And he also self-medicated with street drugs and alcohol, and because he didn't know what he had, and it was the only thing that he could do at the time that he felt that would alleviate some of his symptoms. So, not judging him, I just understand him better now that I know more about Tourette's. When he left, like I said, the children and I were together for 2 years, and within that 2 years, we grew really close, and we went through a lot together. We had a lot of arguments. We had a lot of bad times where my sons were dealing with the loss of their father, and my daughter was dealing with the loss of a daddy, and it was really hard for them, on top of dealing with Tourette's. And it just, if it hadn't been for God and my faith in Jesus and my Christianity and prayer, I probably would not have survived those 2 years just being alone with my children. But I can say this, that through the hard times, we learned to laugh through our tears. We learned to look at each other and accept each other for who we were and what we had. And I believe one of the most important things that my children learned was that they needed to be there for each other and understand each other when they were all going through different stages of their Tourette's. When they were going through adolescence, that was a big roller coaster ride. Not only did they have the emotional and the physiological problems and the physical problems of growing and becoming an adolescent and a teenager, they also had Tourette's on top of that. So it was, many different things. And as we go along each video, I will talk more about them and what they've discovered and what they endured for tics. Tics can be very injurious. They can hurt your body. When my son Caleb had tennis elbow 3 or 4 times, he sprained his wrist. He punched his nose so much that he tore up one side of his nostril. And next to the oldest son, Benjamin, had a stomach tic from the time he was born until he was 11 years old, which caused him to have severe GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease, and he had to have a fundoplication, what they call a Nissen wrap now, because he would just throw up all the time. And we'll get into those things more along as we go along. Being single and taking them to all the appointments that we went to, we've gone up to the highest point of the state that we live in, to down through New England to one of the lowest states that we had to go to, Massachusetts, just to get help with these diagnoses that they had. Again, I want to encourage you to reach out. I want to encourage you to ask any questions, whether you have Tourette's or not. If you're a parent who has children with Tourette's, please reach out to me. Like I said, if I don't know the answer, then I'll try to find it for you. You're not alone in this. We're together. And that's the main point I want to get across to people with Tourette's and to parents who have children with Tourette's. I want you to understand that there's someone out there who understands what you're going through, how you feel as a parent, seeing your child suffer with this. I know what it's like, and there are things that we'll talk about, like a parent will go through the 5 stages of mourning when a child is diagnosed with something, whether it's cancer, autism, Tourette's, Down syndrome, whatever it is, you go through that. It's a normal process. So I want to reach out to the parents and to the family members too. My children are going to be on here. We're going to talk about how things went with us as we were growing up, and even now, as they're adults, they still live with me. Not a bad thing. It's okay. There are a lot of other extenuating circumstances, other physical problems that they have that have caused them to have to stay with me, on top of the Tourette's, and we'll talk about other diagnoses that they deal with too. But once again, thank you for tuning in. I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I hope that you will tune into the next video that I upload, and have a blessed day.